Hello, and it's time for another Monday Mystery Meeting. I've come back off holiday, so it's just been uploaded as I've returned back off holiday. But I really hope you enjoy it. I found it a great pleasure to just interview and just chat this through. It was a great time that I spent. I hope it's really encouraging to all of you. So, hello, and
Hello.
it's another Monday Mystery Meeting. This is the 11th one, I think, which is just crazy. That means we've been in lockdown now for 16 weeks. But as you can see, we've got Scott and Claire Beadle with us. So, hello, Scott and Claire.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hello. So, welcome to the land of my living room and your living room. Normally, I do this from church. It's really weird doing it in my own home. I feel like people are invading my privacy now. They're getting to see Liz's girly stuff. Whereas you've got a plant coming out the back of your head.
That's lockdown hair, that is, Steve.
Is that the way it's gone now?
That's it, yeah.
So, Scott, Claire, why don't you just tell us a bit about yourselves?
Yeah, so I'm Claire, I'm Scott's wife.
That's good to know. You're not like,
handy. We've got two children, Faith and William. Faith's 8 and William is 6. We've been married for
10 years this year.
10 years this year. Scott says it feels like a lot longer.
Yeah.
That's good, because that means he can't imagine life without you. So he's being romantic when he says that.
You saved me there. Thank you, Steve.
We've been going. I don't know what you want to say and what I say, but we got baptised together, didn't we, in April 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going to Riverside on and off for about 12 years, but properly for the last 4 years I've been coming to church regularly.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm Scott. And I guess Claire's covered most things there.
Sorry.
Just for those that maybe don't know, obviously within the church, my parents, Phil and Deb, are the elders at church. Dan is my brother who leads worship, and then obviously his wife Abby and Clara as well. And then my sister Faye and her husband Andy and little Edie. And then my other sister, Amy, who sometimes comes along. So that's my kind of extended family and immediate family.
I was with Phil and Debbie today, and Amy had just cooked a coffee cake, which Liz thought was phenomenal. And she literally, I've never seen Liz wolf down coffee cake as fast as Amy's coffee cake today. So you must get her to send some over to you. It's really good.
Yeah, I'll drop her a note.
She's good at baking, isn't she?
She is, yeah.
Doing her cakes.
Yeah.
So, obviously, we've been in lockdown, as I say, for like 15, 16 weeks. So, what changed for you? What does life look like now? How is it different to pre-lockdown? I'll
go first because it's a little bit more easier for me, isn't it, really? Because I just sort of became a full-time, no, not full-time, but a mum and a teacher all rolled into one, which obviously I've never considered being a teacher before, and suddenly became one. So yeah, I spend my days teaching the children and cajoling them into work. And
do they still call you mum, or are you Mrs. Beadle?
Oh no, they just still call me mum.
Okay.
Mum at best, I would say sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, we joke, but at the very beginning it was Faith named our class 1B and 3B, because obviously that's their year bands, and she'd joke and say, oh, Mrs. Beadle, what have you got for us today then? And she'd tell her friends that Mrs. Beadle's very strict. But no, that's worn off, it's just mum, isn't it?
She's got the lockdown where things wearing off as well now.
Very much so.
Yeah. And then I guess for me, really, Steve, not a huge amount of change, because if everybody can remember, back in Feb we had the floods.
Way back when, a lifetime ago.
I know. So our office block was flooded out. So since the 16th of Feb, we've been working remotely as a business. So of course, when lockdown happened, nothing really changed on that front, because we're already 5 weeks into working remotely. So there wasn't a significant change on that front.
No. So what has your house been like? Because obviously your house has now been office, classroom, playground, family space. How have you managed it being all those different environments?
Well, we've all right really, and don't forget, obviously we moved just before, literally days before Christmas.
Yeah.
So actually, we were talking earlier about lockdown and the whole phrase of it, weren't we? And it didn't feel like such a bad thing for us, because it was just time to spend together and in our new home.
Yeah.
So it was getting used to our new house, wasn't it? And getting everything organised completely. You move in and then you think, oh, I'll sort that later.
Are there any boxes that are still unpacked?
Oh, not one.
No. I think on that note of lockdowns, Claire just touched on there, Steve, it's a mindset thing, isn't it? So for us, it's not been a sense of being locked in or locked in. It's actually been a case that we've been fortunate enough to spend loads of time together as a family, which ordinarily, on that kind of hamster wheel of everyday life, or what was everyday life before, you don't get that precious time. And it's the one commodity everybody says they've not got enough of, whereas actually through this period of time, we've got loads more time together. So it's actually been a real blessing. But we want to caveat that by saying that's our experience as a family. And we don't lose sight of the fact that obviously there are other families and people out there that through this time have suffered and have been through a lot. So we're just talking about our personal experience, but not losing sight of the fact that we're sympathetic and empathetic towards people that have had a very different experience to us.
And that is the thing. Lockdown is such an individualistic experience. Everyone's had a different experience of it, and I've been at work every day because I've been considered a key worker. So from day one, I could keep going to work. So I've not even experienced being in my home continually, because in fact I'd probably say I've been in this place less than ever before. But it is so subjective, and it's very easy to almost get into lockdown comparison of, they've had this experience and I've got this experience. But truthfully, we've all got our own positives through lockdown. We've all got our own challenges as well. And I think sometimes we just almost have to embrace each other's positives and negatives. I mean, the last Monday mystery meeting was with Karen, and just to hear her talk of a positive mindset and to keep rejoicing no matter what in lockdown, I think it's really refreshing, because we can get hung up on what lockdown has stopped. But actually, there's so much that we can focus on as well. And I think sometimes we just need to share those stories to help us to see the rays of light. So I'm pleased in a way that you've seen the positive of it and have a positive lockdown story. Which is,
absolutely.
Definitely.
It's worth sharing.
Sorry, I just going to say, obviously the first, couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, the weather was really good, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of, I'm assuming, helped most people, because obviously when the sun's out, it's got a completely different feel to it. So I think that also helped, didn't it?
It's almost like a guilty feeling though, isn't it? Embracing it. I know we shouldn't feel guilty, but I remember feeling a little bit like, this is great. Not having to get up for the school run and just being together and, doing things when we want to do them instead of racing around with after school clubs and things like that. But then you feel this guilt because you know that there's devastation happening in other places when people are losing people close to them.
Yeah.
And you've got this sort of real, two double-sided coin.
Yeah. And that it is a double-sided coin, but you can't lose sight of the positives of your experience but your heart still goes out to the people that are having a tough time, and we still should be reaching out and supporting people that are having struggles. But I want to say, you don't feel guilty. I like the fact you've been able to embrace lockdown, because it is in that moment that we're able to find a bit more of ourselves. So keep doing it, but I want to encourage you, as you say, to keep being sympathetic towards people who are struggling and keep reaching for them as well. So almost, you've talked about having quite a positive lockdown experience. So would you say it hasn't been challenging for you?
Well, And that's it. Well, do you want to go first, or should I? Because I keep being conscious that I'm.
No, you carry on.
Just go.
Let everybody see what really happens behind closed doors.
Well, after saying all of that, I've absolutely loved it. I'm also not scared to be vulnerable and show that I've really struggled as well with the teaching side of things.
Yeah.
Not really anything else. I don't feel like I've had any challenges with any other area. It's just that has really, it's been like a constant undercurrent of stress, just because, I mean, my top 5 strengths in the strength finder thing that you did, one of my top 5 is responsibility. And I just really recognise that I've got this, you know, I'm constantly thinking, well, have they done enough? Have they written enough sentences today? You know, or read enough books or whatever? And if they go a few days without reading, I think, oh, they haven't read. What am I going to do? What would they think of me at school? And I just, you know, and I think this is their education and it's in my hands all of a sudden. And I never, you know, I never expected it to happen. And as much as I can keep telling myself, well, everybody else is in the same boat, at the end of the day, the fact remains is those 2 children that are mine have got me as their teacher, and I've never trained to be a teacher. I've never, you know. So, but, you know, the school's been brilliant. They've done online lessons. They've sent loads of stuff out. So it hasn't been difficult to know what to do. It's the managing them, boredom or resistance, or, you know, I'm being very polite here, you know, that kind of thing. So it's just it's been really challenging.
I think one of the things that a lot of teachers have said to me, and I know your sense of responsibility won't hear this because I have responsibility as well, so I know the wrestling match with that. But I love the fact that whenever I've spoken to a teacher, I've gone, we want parents just to know we appreciate that you're trying. We know it's a circumstance you didn't want to be into. We get it. Don't worry. Enjoy your time with your kids. And every teacher I've spoken to has said that. And they wouldn't have reason to lie to me because I haven't got any kids. So it's not like they're trying to make me feel any better. But I've just been really encouraged that the teachers are just appreciative that you're trying. And it's, don't beat yourself up about it.
It does make me feel better. It does make me feel better hearing that. It's just I suppose it's just that day, you know, the constant conversation you have with yourself. And,
that constant question of should I have done more? Could they have done more? But you need to almost replay this conversation again. Don't beat yourself up. You're trying. It's enough. Okay. And teachers are pleased that you're trying. Okay. But don't allow that to cloud the positive of your time with your family. All right.
Thank you.
That's true. And I think as well as that, I think for the biggest challenge for me personally has been obviously having to get the business in a position where it can survive, because it's been severely impacted by everything that's been going on. So that was the first focus, and then having the discipline to keep going, to keep at it every day. And the other thing which I've recognised is I've had a sense of guilt that because I'm here every day, there are times throughout every day where I feel I should be spending more time with Claire and Faith and Will, and there's a sense of guilt around that, but at the same time I've almost got to separate that out in a sense. I've still got a job to do and I still have to focus on that, but I'm getting more time now than ever. But I do feel guilty because I am here, and like I said, maybe I should be spending more time with them. But so those have been the 2 biggest challenges for me.
But you are more present because you'll come down at lunchtime and have your lunch, whereas when he was in the office, they would never have seen him, or when they were at school. They're at school, he's at work. And then when they come home from, the children come home from school, Daddy would still, have been at work. Whereas now you'll come down, you might have a snack, you come down for your lunch, can't get rid of you, joking.
Yeah, it's all food related. You see that pattern there, Stu? Yeah.
What I mean is like, and they'll come up to your office, won't they, and knock on the door. We've got this like little rule where you knock once, if he's off, if he's not on the phone, he'll, you know, and if they knock and nothing, means Daddy's on the phone, and they've quite got to know that.
Yeah, we had to kind of get some rules in place because it was just a free for all at the beginning. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I'd say, Scott, just hear Claire on that. You know what I mean? You might feel that guilt, but
Yeah.
she's recognising, mate, that you're around for the family. So hear that from her.
Yeah.
But that whole thing of self-control, it's so difficult. I think, again, conversations I've been having with people in lockdown is those that have had to work from home. It's trying to figure out those boundaries. This is my house, but this is also my job, and this is my school, and this is your home suddenly has all these different hats. And it's trying to learn what box can you put what into and safeguarding times and spaces. But you seem to be both wrestling with it, but not like with Habakkuk, wrestle and embrace. You're doing both, and I'm loving that. You're both wrestling with that challenge, but you are embracing it. Which
we are.
I think it's very easy to just wrestle with it and chuck the embracing out the window. But actually, you are doing both. So be encouraged to keep going.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
So we've talked a bit about challenges. Have you seen God been breaking through? Has God been present during lockdown, or do you feel that He's just been sitting on a cloud, like laughing at you from afar? You know.
Yeah, He probably does that now and again. To be fair.
Well, nothing's really changed. On the one hand, it's just the same as usual, as in, you know, I feel that God's continually there with me. I'm not the sort of person that will sit down to do designated prayer a lot. I'm not saying I don't do that, but you know what I mean? I'm not the sort of person that will, you know, designate time for that often. I'll have like a constant dialogue with God throughout my everyday. So, you know, that's something, so that hasn't really changed. And there's been a lot of chatting lately to do with, you know, come on, give me some strength to do them, to get them to write their things, and you know, and then there's been a couple of like what I call God moments as well, which have been nice. Maybe not related to lockdown. I had a friend call me up out the blue. Not obviously she's a good friend, but wouldn't really normally call, you know, normally you text or whatever.
Yeah.
And she called, and I thought, well, I hope everything's okay. And she's chatting away, and she basically works at a hospital as a nurse, and she wasn't in a frontline job, and she was thought she might have to go into a frontline position, and she was really worried, really nervous about it. Yeah. And she called me so I could pray for her, which I thought was really lovely, and it's just opened up a real dialogue about, you know, her faith. Yeah, because she didn't. I think she sort of had got a faith, but not, you know, a questionable sort of is there. Isn't it? And then she did get a job that wasn't on the front line, which is what I prayed for her, and I prayed in my life group as well for her. Yeah, and it's just really opened up that dialogue now.
That's amazing. That's a proper God breakthrough in lockdown. Yeah. That's really inspiring. I love that.
Yeah, really good.
Wow.
So
yeah, and I think you know, like Claire, Steve, it's kind of like lockdown or no lockdown, like God's there. He's ever present, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, he's just he is. So and I think, you know, we in our life group followed the Philippians Bible reading, and obviously that really demonstrates firsthand that it doesn't matter what your circumstances are, you know, it's a choice, isn't it? It's a choice about how, you know, you choose to be and seeing God and seeking God, and your circumstances can never take that away from you. Yeah. You know, even if you're confined to a prison cell, you can still be with Him, and He can be with you every day. Yeah. So obviously that's, you know, there's been that kind of constant feeling. But in terms of breakthroughs, there's been a few situations where I've been with people that I probably wouldn't have been with had it not been for lockdown. We've met outside and had a chat, and you know, people have asked me about my faith, and I've happily shared. There was one instance where I reflected on it, and I thought, oh, you could have shared more there, Scott. You kind of so next time you get the opportunity, make sure that you do. And then there was another situation with somebody else, and we had a really good chat for probably half an hour, 40 minutes around my faith, how that's changed my life, and that was a really encouraging conversation. And then there's one guy in particular who is known to somebody else in our church. He was going through a really difficult time, and I was asked, or we were asked as part of our life group, could we pray for this guy? Which of course we did, but I also said, look, if he's happy to, I'm happy to give him a call and pray with him over the phone. Fast forward 2.5 months, and every Monday we have a conversation on the phone for about an hour. Me and this guy, I didn't even know him before. So we have a good conversation, talking about God and praying together, and that's happening on a weekly basis with him. And to see his faith grow over that period of time as well has been that's been a breakthrough and really encouraging.
I mean, that's just fantastic to hear, because one of the things someone said to me was, how can discipleship still happen when we can't gather? But it's like, discipleship can happen whenever there's communication. You know what I mean? And you've just modeled that. It's regular investment with someone else, and that's what discipleship is. It's intentional, and it's of course it's great when you can do it face to face, but just because we can't meet in person doesn't mean that God sharpening other people doesn't happen. And it's great, and you've experienced that.
No, so that's been good. That's been good. But I think it's just that whole thing, when Paul was talking about just his whole mindset, when he's in prison, he's just it's just a real example to all of us, isn't it? That take your put any circumstance to one side, and just choose to keep speaking to God, rejoice, be joyful, and share the word.
Right. And the thing is, it's simple, and sometimes we can overcomplicate it, but just keep it that simple, keep it that focused, and we'll be all right. So thank you. That's just really encouraging. So prayer, is there anything that you want the church to be praying for you, or is there anything that you think the church should be focusing their prayer on right now?
I think in a wider capacity, unity, and for a real movement of God. We've had we had a word from Barry, didn't we? That initially came through kind of back end of last year about revival. And then I guess it'd be easy to think, well, COVID's come along, so that'll have to be put on ice for this year. But God don't work like that, does he?
No.
So we can think, well, all this going on, we'll have to reconfigure things. But I think we should still be really praying into the whole, this big movement of God. So for that and unity really as a general prayer, I think will be a good focus. Yeah.
I mean, go on, Claire, you go.
Sorry, I was just going to say as well, as a general, just blessing over the coffee shop situation as we move into the next stages with that.
Yes, which is super exciting. But I mean, in terms of revival, when people said to me, could there be this movement of God when the floods and with lockdown, I would have been really skeptical. But attendance of churches across the country has doubled, if not tripled. Attendance in prayer gatherings has doubled and tripled. There are more conversations that are happening on people's streets about faith and prayer than ever before. It just hasn't looked like we all thought it would. We assumed Sunday services would be filled with people to overflowing and queues down the streets, whereas actually, if the amount of people that are watching a service online turned up to a church service, that's exactly what we'd be seeing. I think it is happening, but it's hard to quantify because we are not seeing it in a way that we'd expect. The challenge for us, I think, as a church, are we ready for it when we can gather? How do we follow through with what we've built online?
I think that's the thing, isn't it? God moves in mysterious ways, and I'll just speak for myself, but quite often my expectation of God is kind of limited by my own thinking. I can't think like he does. So I think, well, revival means X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But as you've pointed out, you know, when you look, if everything's, you know, if attendance is doubling, and as in online attendance and everything else, then, you know, there is a big movement there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like you say, it's not what we expected, but it's still happening.
And I think as well, the towns and the streets are ripe for mission in a way that they weren't before. And again, I mean, Claire, you've mentioned there Clementine's, the coffee shop. That is going to be such a tool for mission within Bewdley, because an independent business opening up that's reaching out to people, I mean, people are jumping at it. They're looking for places where they can have that. And it's literally, again, you talk about God's timing. It's been a frustration for me that it's taken this long to get through the door of being able to say, yes, it's ours. But actually, would it have had the impact on Bewdley if we were good to go during the floods? Probably not.
Yeah, no.
Whereas to be opening up a business with a mission focus of loving the community just as the community is reopening, that's kind of God timing. And actually, there was nothing we could do about the speed of lawyers and contracts and all of that. This is where we are. And again, the timing looks perfect. It's exciting. It is exciting. But definitely, we do need to be praying though for that continued wave of revival for the coffee shop and unity, because it's easy to keep, it's not easy, it's easier to keep unity when we know we're going to see each other on a Sunday. And actually what I've found is just chatting with some people is they've actually said to me, oh, Steve, it's so easy to let fly on a text, knowing I don't have to see them face to face in a couple of days. And actually, that lack of face-to-face contact means sometimes we're not the best version of ourselves when we're communicating. And I think actually to be mindful of that and be praying for unity, that's such a good thing to be focusing our prayers on right now. Because again, the Bible's really clear, where there's unity, God will move.
Yeah.
And we can be united even if we're sitting in different living rooms.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah. And then I guess conversely, you know, the enemy wants division.
Yeah.
You know, so unity's massive.
That's brilliant. And I think that's a great focus for prayer. And just as we wrap up, I mean, as we're filming this, lockdown is being eased significantly. And on Saturday, the pubs are opening, which I can't even think of what Bewdley's going to be like on Saturday. Obviously, this will go out after that's happened. So when everyone's watching this, they'll know how it's gone. But is there any practical advice you can just be giving anyone watching this for life in lockdown, or as lockdown's easing? Is there any practical advice you want to give anybody that's watching this?
I guess for quite early on when all this kicked off, we I guess like most people were keen to keep a close eye on it, and really spent too much time listening to the media. And we very quickly realised after a couple of weeks that this wasn't healthy for us at all. So, and as a spin-off to that, just, you know, Paul, again, I think, well, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but I think is it in Romans, just talking about being transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yeah.
But obviously, as part of that, we're transformed by what we're led in. So just got to, I guess it just be to be, I don't want to sound patronising all as I'm talking to myself as I'm saying it, but it's just to be really mindful of what we're letting in, because that is what will shape what we think, and what we start to think will then drop into our heart, and then that's what we become as an individual. So just be really mindful of that stuff, and ultimately, if we want answers, then we know where to go, don't we? There's a book that stood the test of time.
I was going to go with Google. It's not Google. There's a book with, oh man, no way. Sorry.
Yeah. That's a fair point, Steve, actually, yeah. But yeah, so that there's that part. And I think the other part, Steve, for me, is for everybody is get involved in community in the church. And okay, we can't meet like we used to, but there's nothing stopping any of us even if it's just one other person, just having some community outside of a Sunday morning. Because I'm part of a men's group now, I've been for a couple of years, and that's been absolutely massive to me and for my growth in my faith. And I wouldn't change that for the world. And I just really encourage everybody to reach out to someone or just have a 2 or 3, 4, whatever, in the church and just spend time praying together, sharing your challenges together, getting into the Word together, and doing life together, but through the eyes of God, because that's massive.
And that's just such great advice, because it is relationship that we're built for. And I think we're not built just to do an hour on a Sunday. We're built to do this, to actually talk and share with each other. That's how God designed us. So that's great. And Claire, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, just the same really. I was just thinking how my life group, having the online services on Sunday, life group on, I nearly forgot then, it's changes Mondays and Tuesdays. It's just been really good to keep that continual, and it's really helped because obviously we'll share things on our life group, how's it been for you? And there's 3 of us that are mums and teach their little ones at home and stuff as well. So it's been good to, let off steam.
Yeah, and actually I think that's a great phrase, letting off steam, because with good friends you can let off steam, and it's a safe place to do it because your mates have got each other, and that's what community is about. It's about holding each other up when someone just needs to sit on the floor. And it's so important that we get a space to do that. And I've loved that about Riverside, that there is a real openness for people to want to hold each other up when they're feeling low. It's a real strength to the church, and I really hope it continues to grow in that way.
Yeah, it's just one other thing as well, Steve, is and it's just one other thing. You asked one of the questions you asked was around where we've seen God in lockdown, and maybe some people haven't seen anything specific happen, and with church not being as it is, as in Sunday mornings, and maybe people, as we all do from time to time, kind of slip away a bit. But if there's any element of doubt, I'd just again encourage people just to kind of just look back at your life. So just use the analogy a bit like when you drive in a car. Every so often you look in the rear view mirror. Yeah, you just have that check to see what's gone on behind, because there will be encouraging stuff that you can call back upon. Yeah. To help you, but we don't want to spend too much time looking back because we'll just crash. Yeah. So just have that period of reflection from time to time. Look at where God's moved in your life before, and he'll never leave or forsake you, as he tells us. And he's begun a good work in us, and he's gonna see it through. So if you're not experiencing anything specific at the moment, you feel you're drifting, just have a little think back to what he's done in your life, and how far he's brought you to this point.
I mean, and that's great biblical advice. I mean, when you look at the great prayers of the Old Testament, all of the great prayers of the Old Testament start, first of all, with them giving thanks for what God's done in their life, and then they go into a big prayer for what's next. And it's a little glance over your shoulder of, look at what God's done. This is how I know he's real, and that propels them into the future. So it's a real biblical practice to do that, and it is really helpful for your soul as well. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
But I just want to thank you both for giving up a bit of an evening to share with us. Thank you for just being yourselves and just being so encouraging and challenging. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
No worries, and we'll see you later.
Yeah.
See you later.
All right. God bless all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.